Hello learners, welcome back to the course on Learning and Development in Organization. We move to the last lecture of this module where we're looking into knowledge management in a very comprehensive way. So over the past few sessions in this particular module, if you have observed, we have tried to cover knowledge management, understand the nitty-gritties associated with knowledge management, what are the typical factors that will enhance the knowledge management in an organization, what are the typical barriers that create hindrance towards efficient knowledge management systems within organization. All these aspects we have looked into. Today we'll try to summarize everything. We'll try to look into the gist of every single discussion that has happened over the last module. And also, I would like to bring in some knowledge management strategies with respect to some practical applications. So we'll look into some case studies in the world of practice, look into what typically makes an organization a better learning organization with efficient knowledge management system. I'm Dr. Abraham Cyril Issac. I'm an assistant professor at the School of Business, Indian Institute of Technology, Guwahati. Now, when you look into knowledge management, we have seen that knowledge management is critical. Knowledge is power, but only when it is shared, applied, and continuously evolved. So it does not make any particular sense if you say knowledge is power again and again on a very trivial note. But rather than making it as a statement, how about taking knowledge into the next level? Trying to share it, trying to apply it, trying to see the evolution of knowledge within the organization or within the organizational setting. That will make knowledge management all the more relevant. Let's understand it. Let's quickly summarize. We have seen this, so quickly we'll move forward with this knowledge management understanding. Knowledge management is a process of capturing, organizing, sharing, and utilizing knowledge to enhance efficiency, innovation, and decision making. So when you are looking into typically L&D, and that's my motto today, to connect it with learning and development, it plays a vital role in L&D by ensuring that valuable knowledge is systematically stored and accessible for future learning. So why the knowledge management or as an ACT-KM is important in L&D? It prevents knowledge loss when employees actually leave. It ensures that the critical knowledge is not lost when employees leave the organization. It improves, it enhances collaboration and accelerates learning across teams. It enhances decision making by making the right knowledge available at the right time. We have seen all this. Quickly we move forward. When we look into specifically knowledge management, we come across this particular argument: explicit versus tacit. Explicit is all the knowledge that is documented, structured, and easily shared. You can have examples like training manuals or e-learning modules or policy documents or databases. All these are part of explicit knowledge, or all these contribute or constitute what we know now today as explicit knowledge. When we come to tacit knowledge, it's nothing but the personal experience, the way of understanding some things over the years, experience-based knowledge that is difficult to articulate and often resides in individuals' minds. So it includes problem-solving skills, it includes intuition, it includes expertise, it includes whatever experience that is gained through your experience. So this is something called as tacit knowledge, the expertise gained through experience. When we discussed knowledge management, if you recollect, you will see that we have looked into the Nonaka and Takuchi's SESI model 1995, which explains how organizations cover tacit knowledge into explicit knowledge and vice versa through what we understand as socialization, externalization, combination, and internalization, which is the SESI model. Now, we also looked into knowledge management with respect to the different frameworks, but now we would like to see the connection between knowledge management and learning and development. Why knowledge management matters in learning and development? Let's try to decipher that particular question. Knowledge management enhances L&D by improving how organizations capture, how organizations store and share knowledge to drive continuous learning and innovation. So we start with enhancing knowledge sharing. You see that knowledge sharing practices foster a culture of collaborative learning, enabling employees to learn from one another. We have seen the example of Google's Googler to Googler G2G. Please recollect the discussion on that, where we looked into knowledge sharing programs that allows employees to train each other on various technical and non-technical skills. Then we look into the retaining of organizational expertise. As employees, retire or leave, organizations risk losing valuable knowledge if they don't have a structured way to capture it. If you recollect, I have mentioned something called as institutional memory. This is vital. This is all about retaining organizational expertise when an individual moves out. So, example can be NASA has a knowledge management office that documents lessons from experienced engineers to ensure continuity of expertise. The third important aspect would be the improvement in decision making. When employees have access to the right knowledge at the right time, they can make informed decisions faster and more accurately. IBM's knowledge management system uses AI to recommend relevant case studies and best practices for complex problem solving. Now let's quickly look into the most important part of today's discussion, key knowledge management strategies. We start with capturing knowledge. When you talk about capturing knowledge ensures that valuable insights and expertise do not disappear when employees leave an organization, something which is an extension of our previous discussion. Effective knowledge capture helps document both explicit, that is written, and tacit, which is experiential knowledge. So when you look into this capturing knowledge, there are different techniques. You have knowledge repositories, they are centralized platforms where employees can store and access documents, best practices and lessons learned. There are some particular systematic documentation aspects, which are systematic recording of workflows or case studies or key processes to create the institutional memory which I was talking about. Or there are some expert interviews, conducting structured interviews with experienced employees to capture their insights before they retire or leave. Let me take an example. As you can see in the slide, a company can create an internal wiki where employees contribute step-by-step guides, FAQs and process documentations. So organizations like GitHub and IBM use wikis to capture technical and operational knowledge. Now the second important strategy would be sharing and transferring knowledge. You look into knowledge, it is the most valuable aspect when it is shared across teams and individuals. Knowledge transfer ensures that skills and expertise are passed down to future employees, fostering continuous learning. What are the methods of knowledge sharing? If you ask me, I will explicitly mention that it includes mentorship programs. Senior employees, they mentor junior staff. Most of the organizations have this. Just check whether your organization is also having it, helping them gain industry-specific insights. So this mentorship happens across organization. There is what we understand as storytelling. Employees share real-world experiences and case studies to convey, tacit knowledge in a relatable way. There are COPs, communities of practice, groups of professionals who regularly exchange insights and best practices in a specific domain altogether. You look into an example, let's say Microsoft's COP program enables software engineers to collaborate, solve coding challenges, and mentor newcomers. These are some of the critical aspects. You look into storing and organizing knowledge. You have what we understand as a need for organization. Once knowledge is captured and shared, we typically see this as a third important strategy. When knowledge is captured and shared, it must be stored and structured for easy retrieval. So, well organized knowledge prevents information loss and ensures accessibility. You look into the storage tools, you will see that there are certain LMS, learning management systems, platforms like Moodle or Blackboard or Cornerstone that store training content and track learner progress. There are some knowledge databases, digital libraries where employees can search for policies, guides, and case studies. You look into an example, AI-driven knowledge portals such as IBM Watson Knowledge Catalog help employees quickly retrieve relevant information through machine learning recommendations. Now, as a fourth strategy, what we can understand is applying and retaining the knowledge. For knowledge to be useful, I will say that it must be applied in real-world scenarios. Retaining knowledge ensures employees continuously refine their skills and integrate learning into their daily work. So what are the different typical strategies for applying knowledge? One will be on-the-job learning. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, please note employees apply new knowledge while performing tasks, reinforcing learning through experience. Then there are simulations, there are role plays typically. Safe environments where employees practice the decision-making skills. There are job aids and checklists, quick references tools that help employees execute tasks accurately. Let's take an example. Organizations like Deloitte, they use micro-learning. Micro-learning, which is what we have already discussed, short, focused training modules to reinforce skills in small increments, ensuring knowledge retention typically. Then we see the most critical part nowadays, which is technology in knowledge management. That brings me to the discussion of AI. When you look into technology, technology plays a crucial role in modern day knowledge management, there is no doubt about it. This happens by automating processes, enhancing collaboration, and improving the knowledge accessibility. This is vital. So when you look into technology knowledge management, I should always start with AI, social learning tools, and gamification that support knowledge sharing and application. Let's start with the role of AI and automation in knowledge management. Please note, artificial intelligence is no doubt transforming knowledge management by making knowledge more accessible, more personalized, more predictive. We have discussed all these aspects. Also, please refer to the NPTEL course AI in HRM, which deals with the typical modules with respect to AI in learning. AI-driven tools help organizations process vast amounts of data, provide real-time support, and anticipate learning needs. So when you look into the key AI applications in knowledge management, we have the AI-driven chatbots for real-time learning support. Chatbots typically serve as virtual knowledge assistants, providing instant responses to employee queries. An example could be the IBM Watson. IBM Watson Assistant helps employees navigate large knowledge bases by answering FAQs and providing relevant documents. So the impact is critical. It reduces the reliance on human trainers and enhances on-demand learning. Then there is what we understand as a predictive analytics for identifying the knowledge gaps. AI analyzes employee performance data to detect areas where additional learning is actually required. Something like a SAP success factors uses analytics to recommend personalized learning paths based on employee behavior and skill gaps. So the typical impact would be that it enables targeted interventions before performance issues arise. Then we go for the social learning and collaboration tools. You ask me about social learning, I will tell social learning leverages peer-to-peer knowledge sharing and collaborative learning environments to enhance engagement and retention. Organizations increasingly use the enterprise social networks and online communities to foster the knowledge exchange. So you have online forums as one of the significant tools. Virtual communities are there. Platforms where employees discuss challenges, discuss insights, share insights, collaborate with each other. Microsoft Teams is an example. Slack is an example. Yammer enable peer-to-peer knowledge sharing through forums, real-time collaboration through channels and discussion threads. We have the ESNs, Enterprise Social Network. Internal networks that encourage employees to share expertise and insights. What we have seen as in the case of Yammer. Typically, Microsoft 365 is widely used for knowledge sharing across organization. The third aspect here would be gamification in knowledge management. Gamification applies game mechanics, gamified elements to encourage engagement, motivation, and knowledge sharing. So by introducing elements like what we have already discussed, points, badges, leaderboards, organizations create a more interactive learning environment. When you look into typically the gamification techniques, as I mentioned, you have employees gaining digital badges for contributing valuable insights or completing the knowledge sharing task. IBM's digital badge program, if you heard, it rewards employees for the knowledge contribution. That's a clear classic example of gamification KM. You also have some leaderboard and challenges. Deloitte Leadership Academy uses this gamification to encourage participation in their leadership training program. So ultimately, these encourages healthy competition in knowledge sharing activities. Now coming to the fag end of the particular discussion session, we go through some case studies and best practices. We'll start with Google. Open knowledge culture and AI-driven knowledge management is what differentiates Google from its competitors. Google fosters an open knowledge sharing culture through platforms like Google Brain, enabling employees to share AI research and innovation. We have also seen that Google Sites and Google Drive are used for collaborative documentation and real-time knowledge access. AI-powered tools also analyze employee queries and recommend relevant internal documents, reducing search time and duplication. So, what is the best practice that we learned from Google? Create an open, searchable knowledge repository to enhance accessibility and encourage collaboration. The impact is critical. Faster innovation and problem solving through shared learning. Another significant case would be that of IBM. AI-powered knowledge management and cognitive learning are the backbone of this particular case study. IBM developed Watson Knowledge Studio, an AI-driven tool that captures, stores, and analyzes organizational knowledge. So it uses the COPs, communities of practice, to facilitate expert to novice knowledge exchange. So what happens is that the AI-driven skills tracking systems suggest personalized learning paths based on typical employee needs as such. So the best practice would be leveraging AI and machine learning to automate knowledge organization and personalize the learning path. The impact is vital. There is enhanced decision making, improved productivity, and reduced knowledge silos. The third example today I would like to take is Siemens. Siemens implemented the Siemens ShareNet knowledge management system, allowing employees worldwide to share best practices and lessons learned. So typically, Siemens uses interactive learning platforms and digital repositories for knowledge retention and real-time collaboration. So the best practice, what we understand or learn from this, is that it develops a global knowledge management system to capture institutional knowledge across multiple locations. And the impact is critical again. It is all about reducing redundancy in problem solving across global teams, leading to improved efficiency and faster learning curves. Now coming to the best practices in knowledge management, very quickly, we start with fostering a knowledge sharing culture. Encourage collaboration by embedding KM, knowledge management, into the daily workflows. Reward knowledge sharing with incentives, be it recognition, promotions, gamification, badges, etc. So Microsoft's Ask an Expert is a typical example. Ask an Expert program promotes peer-to-peer learning by allowing employees to consult internal subject matter experts. The second important aspect is use AI and automation for knowledge capture and retrieval. Implement AI-powered search tools to provide employees with instant access to relevant information. We can also use predictive analytics to identify the knowledge gaps and recommend the training content, what you want to study or what is suitable for you. An example would be that of GE. General Electric uses AI to automatically update the training content based on the industry trends. The third important factor is to establish COPs, communities of practice. Create COPs where employees can share expertise. They can discuss challenges and enhance the best practices. Use forums, Slack channels. Slack channels or dedicated KM portals to facilitate the discussion. An example here would be that of Deloitte. Deloitte's KM system integrates social learning tools for real-time knowledge exchange. The fourth important aspect would be to develop structured knowledge repositories. Build centralized digital libraries, be it intranets, be it wikis, cloud-based KM systems to store critical documents and training materials. Ensure content, what you are putting is searchable, categorized, and frequently updated. An example could be that of NASA's lesson learned database. Help scientists and engineers avoid repeating past mistakes by sharing insights from previous projects. We move into the fifth best practice, which is to implement micro-learning for knowledge retention. Use short, focused learning modules to reinforce key knowledge areas over time. Integrate job aids, videos, and scenario-based learning into workflows. An example could be Salesforce uses interactive micro-learning modules for sales reps to quickly learn about new product features and sales techniques. And sixth best practice would be to measure and improve the knowledge retention. You look into knowledge retention, track KM effectiveness using metrics such as engagement rates, knowledge reuse frequency, and skill improvement. Conduct post-training assessments and knowledge checks to reinforce learning. An example could be PwC uses data analytics to evaluate how employees apply knowledge from training programs in real-world situations. Now we look into some common challenges and solutions in knowledge management. The first challenge is, of course, the resistance to knowledge sharing. When you have seen knowledge sharing as one of the most important aspects, I've also reiterated this particular notion time and again. When you look into knowledge management, we see it as a very smooth, flexible process. But why it is not a successful one is something to ponder upon. Over my research, I've already mentioned this, I have come across most of the literature, research literature, 95% of any indices, be it Scopus, be it Web of Science, any indices, the studies have focused on knowledge sharing. But always there is a resistance to knowledge sharing, which we are not addressing. And this is what actually prompted me some 8-9 years ago to look into or start looking into the field of knowledge hiding, which is intentional withholding of knowledge when requested. There are different other parameters and constructs like knowledge hoarding, employee silence, which are all critically different from knowledge hiding. Knowledge hiding, I would say, is the epitome of all the organizational politics because it is the intentional withholding of knowledge when requested. So when you are looking into knowledge sharing, If the question is why knowledge sharing in most of the organization, why knowledge management in most of the organization, the system is not efficient, the answer is straight, clear. There is always resistance to knowledge sharing. And this is what I would say is one of the most important challenges when it comes to knowledge management. So this is what I wanted to emphasize. Employees may hesitate due to job security concerns or lack of incentives or a plethora of reasons. The solution can be, that's what we focus on. We are not very keen on deliberating the problem again and again, but the solution would be to integrate KM into performance appraisals and reward contributions. An example could be typically the Shell's Learning from Experience program, which rewards employees who contribute valuable insights to its knowledge base. So embed KM into performance appraisals and reward knowledge sharing behaviors, be it in terms of recognition, be it in terms of gamification badges, whatever be the means, the end should be to get a proper knowledge management, effective knowledge management system. The second challenge is knowledge loss due to turnover. When experienced employees leave, critical organizational knowledge is lost. The solution can be conduct structured exit interviews and document key learnings before employees actually leave. A typical example here would be Boeing's Knowledge Continuity Program, which captures expertise from retiring engineers using video recordings and digital archives. The third is managing knowledge overload. Employees struggle to find relevant knowledge due to information overload. The solution is to use AI-driven recommendation systems to suggest personalized learning content. An example here would be what Amazon uses AI-powered knowledge hubs to ensure employees access the most relevant and up-to-date learning materials altogether. So this is what we typically understand from today's discussion. So over this module, ladies and gentlemen, I have given you some insight into knowledge management. In this particular session, my objective was to connect it with the relevance, with the importance of learning and development. Please understand, learning and development will be only successful if you are willing to share the knowledge that you are gaining. Unless and until that knowledge sharing propensity is not high for an organization in toto and individuals specifically, I would say whatever learning and development you do within the organization will fail. So this is what I would like to conclude. Knowledge management is vital for any organization, and that criticality underscores learning and development and related organizational improvement in terms of performance. Thank you for listening to me patiently. We'll come up with more details of learning and development and a new module in the next class. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.